sandstones here, we're at the top of that sandstone unit before we're at the base. So we've come around
on this side, and where the clays have been mined away from the sandstones, you get some feel for the trend of the sandstone. And that's called the strike line
of the sandstone. And of course, that's
a horizontal line in the plane of deposition, and that was originally horizontal. Now we can get an attitude in which the trend is north 35 west, and the dip is vertical. So as you come this way, you see that there have been areas mined out, and then sandstones where they occur are left because you don't sell the sandstone. What you're mining for are these types of clays, the light tan, light gray, or there's a red one here, and so on. And why they left this, I don't know. There's a dark gray there, and sometimes there's coal material present in those. And so what we try to do in reconstructing the environments of deposition of these formations is to take the lithology, that's what's the composition of the layer, and take the fossil content and then try to reconstruct what that might be. Now, clay, if you study any mineralogy or if you've bought any ceramics, you know there's a wide range of clays. The four major ones that are formed naturally are illite. They have different compositions, but it's all very fine-grained material. You can't see the individual grains with your naked eye. You have to have some type of a microscope. Illite, chlorite, which is an iron-rich clay, montmorillonite, a swelling clay or smectite, and kaolinite. Now, kaolinite's the key, because all those other clays, if you take the clay and fire it in a high temperature, they will not fuse. But kaolinite, which is just aluminum silicate, has the ability to fuse together. And so you can take the clay and process it, mix water with it, make a brick, put the brick in an oven, bake it, and you end up with a hard substance that you use in construction. Or if you're making ceramics, you do the same thing. And the higher the quality of the kaolinite and percent, then the more high quality ceramics you develop. That is harder and can be subjected to higher temperatures. What we see here are diagrams that explain, based on study of modern environments, say like the Mississippi River or the Brazos or others, where you'll see a channel sandstone, and along the edge of that channel are levees. And then in the back levee areas, you'll see clay, which is carried in by currents, and where there's no clay carried in and only organic matter accumulates, that forms what's called peat. And when peat is buried, it's converted to coal. So that's the coal environment. And then lakes. Now here's a critical factor of what happens along the edge of rivers. And you wonder why people get flooded all the time, either by the rivers or by hurricanes that tend to dam up the river or whatever. During the flood stage, the river goes to a high level. And if it comes up on the flood slowly, the suspended load in the river, like the clays or mud, gets trapped by vegetation. And the effect is, through years and years of having a vertical growth to the levee. So this gets to be high ground. And that's where people live. That's where the plantations were in South Louisiana and Mississippi and so on. But here on the back side of the levees is what's called a swamp, back levee swamp. And it's divided into two types, and this is critical. One's a well-drained swamp. That is, when the water level drops in the river, so does the water table drop, groundwater table out here. And this area of the well-drained swamp gets exposed, puts oxygen in direct contact with the organic matter. What happens? The organic matter gets oxidized and drops out of the system. And the organic acids tend to leach any clays deposited here. So you end up with gray clays, but when you get down to where it's lower and the water continuously covers the depositional interface, then the organic matter will give a dark clay or a peat, which changes to coal. And eventually, where the groundwater table is much higher, these plants can't grow, so you get a lake. And those are the environments that are associated with the fluvial floodplains of the river systems. It has to be a special type river, coming up on flood over a period of time, slowly drops, comes up again, drops. And these are geochemical processes that occur along the edge of the river. So if you've got a break in the levee, which is called a crevasse, that's a crevasse splay. And sandstones, which are carried in the river, will spill out away from the river to form these delta-type features. And the dinosaurs, of course, are tracking around on those sandstones. And of course, this is a food supply and a water supply to them. And so we reconstruct that from processes known today associated with rivers, but also it's reconstructed by what we observe right here. So if we take what we've looked at in terms of logs, leaves, dinosaur tracks, this type of clay that forms as an unusual deposit, put all that together, and what we're talking about is the environments of deposition of the Laramie Formation. The only thing we don't see here are the channels, because they're present in these same formations north of here 3 to 4 miles. And I've seen them up there and mapped them. So there's a little geochemistry, the leaching of organic acids, the development of kaolinite is a part of that leaching process. Any other clays come in, they get leached out and kaolinite forms, and that kaolinite is what somebody wanted to mine and sell. And so here, this Ruby mine was the source of kaolinitic clay to form brick and tile. And over here in Denver, they had so much trouble with fires in the wooden structures of homes that at one point they required that bricks be used in construction. And that really spurred the industry here, which then promoted having a railroad come in here from Denver, and these clay miners here, mining and shipping, either to Denver for processing, or because coal was found here, we'll talk about later, there's a source of energy and heat, and there were many brickyards here. So Golden became the center of industrial activity, you might say, in the early territorial days. And there were enough people lived here, mainly because of the discovery of gold in 1859 back here to the west of us in the mountains, that Golden became the industrial center and the territorial capital for 5 years of Colorado. You had to have 25,000 people in order to apply for a territory, and once you got 100,000, you could apply for a state. Because of the rush of people to the gold fields and the settlement associated with that, mines became a territory, split off from Kansas in 1874. That was the year that the School of Mines formed, And 2 years later, 1876, there were 100,000 people living in Colorado and became a state, a centennial state. So you got lots of things that happened here geologically that worked right to produce products. So you had water, you had clay, you had coal, form of energy, and that's what started the activity. And gold spurred it because gold was about 15 miles west of us. That was discovered in 1859. Any questions?
Tell more about Tom Golden.
Yeah.
The first gold along the mountain frontier,
there were a lot of
small patches, but about 3 or 4 miles to the east of us along Clear Creek,
there were some gold placers that
where
were
a
a small town formed in 1858.
It's
It's
called
called
Arapahoe
Arapahoe
City.
City.
There
There
were
were
several
several people prospecting back in the mountains that lived there, and there is a little historical monument along the road if you drive east on 70, whatever that is, 52 maybe. And Tom Golden was one of the people living there, and 2 of his buddies had gone back to the west here, Jackson, and the other one name slips. Anyway, Tom Golden, they went up and found the gold plasters along Clear Creek, and eventually found the lode gold, the Gregory gold, Gregory and Jackson. And Tom Golden came here and started a tent store at this location, and that's where the word golden comes from, related to that early mineral exploration. Okay?